And so today's June 6th. I've gone on to summer break. And during this time period now, as a sub, is when you would start to panic. You're in the school, if you're still working there, and, the teachers are doing the cha-cha at the school and having parties and eating donuts, knowing that they've gone on summer break. But for subs, we were not employed during holidays. Teachers were. We were not employed when the school would close for 4 days if there was a hurricane or something like that. Because right now I'm in a lot better shape than I was then. I have a full-time job now, which I'm so grateful for in so many ways. Financially, spiritually, I've made friends. Today is actually June 6th, and I don't know about other places, but here in Dade County, it was the last day of school for, at least for the public school system here. Well, usually it's a half day, so I went to the mall. It was my day off from work today. Went shopping, and you'll see, all the kids and the students walking around the mall. So they're in the mall, they're celebrating, they're on summer vacation now. I thought to myself how strange that I'm thinking about that, considering I'm now away from the subbing. As you know, if you've watched my channel, I did subbing for about 4 years. I did it in the pandemic. I was one of the first people to go back to work. I wore an N95 and a mask over it, goggles, and a shield. The deal was you ate in the classroom, they didn't give you any breaks. I would run out into the hall and shove food down my throat to try to eat in 2 minutes because they wouldn't give me a break. And it was a very, very rough environment, just beyond that as the point. I mean, I talked about in my videos so many times, so many things, and I'll have so many teachers and people who work in education, they'll gaslight or they'll write comments on my video and they'll be like, oh, maybe you should work with the younger students. The older students probably gave you a hard time. It was really never the students. Most of the problems came from the faculty and the administrators. It was a very toxic environment. There were things happening where, ESC teachers were making fun of the students in the class and mimicking them and making fun of them to other teachers. The faculty member made fun of the fact that I have scoliosis. He told me that all my organs are probably failing me. I would hear, this is way before the tension in the world got really bad. There were a lot of very anti-Semitic faculty at the school, and they would make comments, and the administrators in the office, and they would make comments and laugh about students and make fun of students. This is your administrators at the school. Went through a health scare where, thank God I don't have cancer, but I went through a health scare where I went through screenings of it, and I had faculty at the school making fun of me during that time period, blatantly making fun of me. There's an enormous amount of stories that I have from working in it, and I talk about it so much on my channel that I don't want to spend the entire video talking about everything that happened in order to revalidate the experience. You'd have to go back and watch that. But it was bad enough working in the environment when we were considered, in quote, Dade County school employees. Then we transferred over to Kelly, which was a private company. And when that happened, we went from guaranteed, 4 days a week employment because it was something to do with health insurance. You couldn't be there every day. To you're competing with anyone and anyone basically off the street for a day of work at a school that I had been at for 4 years. And that time period coincides with my channel where you'll see these videos on where I'm, cursing on my channel and this and that because I was terrified and I didn't know if I was going to have to rapid sell my apartment and move. And then I ended up getting my job that I have today, which I absolutely love. It's hard work, but I've made friends. I'm always, waving and interacting with people that I work with, and I have not had that before. And, the other day, a few weeks ago when I got my hair done, I was sitting in the hairdresser's chair, and she's always asked me that, did you ever have friends from teaching? And I would say, of course not. The school is toxic because the administrators and a large amount of the faculty were people who probably should not have gone into education. As far as I'm aware, teachers can either get paid, where they get all of their money in a 10-month time period, or they can have it where it comes in smaller increments, and if they don't know how to manage their money and get paid during the summer. But essentially, they are full-time employed. and a lot of them have the connections to get summer-oriented gigs. There was a teacher, I think she did like Little League and different summer camp things, and she had connections to during the summer. But for subs, we were not employed during holidays. Teachers were. We were not employed when the school would close for 4 days if there was a hurricane or something like that. We were not employed during the summer, and this is the time period where we would start to panic. And as I did other years, so I'm not saying like I don't need to, cut down on expenses and things in that now, but the reality is right now I'm in a lot better shape than I was then. I have a full-time job now, which I'm so grateful for in so many ways. Financially, spiritually, I've made friends. I feel like I'm taking better care of myself, physically, mentally, spiritually, all those things. So it's been a very good experience for me. And I'm really, really grateful for my current job. And it's interesting how I'm not a sub anymore. And I haven't been in that environment now for a couple months, and I've started to heal from them. And yet I'm very aware that today was the last day of school. And I guess it's this moment where I'm saying to myself, this time last year, I was panicking, how to pay my bills in the summer. And then we got the surprise that we had been switched over to Kelly Education. And this is the first time that I can say I'm so grateful that I have full-time employment. And I feel I'm not at all like doing a dance or gloating. I feel very, very strongly and badly for the subs out there who, number one, were still in it and battling it out for days and trying to get work days, and now having to once again figure out how you're going to pay your bills and charge up your cards during the summer. And then on top of that, this coming August, where in other words it will become the new school year after the summer, will be the first time that Kelly Education will be fully enacted with Dade County Schools. So this past year, what happened was it was still being worked in. So, and they were very confused on how to do it. So schools would just have you show up because Kelly wasn't in power yet. So you would show up and they'd have you do, miscellaneous things around the school. That won't be happening anymore because they're not going to pay for you to be there, basically. Whereas before, the school would just have you show up, help the kids get situated in the class, and they would pay you to be there. And so I'm sure that won't be happening, and they're going to go by outages, and there's no one going to be out. So a lot of people who are subs who relied on that, I just show up, help the kids unpack the boxes and the school supplies, may not have work now until there's an actual outage. So between the school not really, unless you're some favorite and they have you show up and help unpack school supplies, there may not be an outage for you, and you may not find yourself with actual real work till September or so, October, and when the teachers actually start calling out. And a lot of the subs had discussed that. So now add that on to the months that you're unemployed in the summer. And anyone at this school, pretty much who was subbing, needed the job. It wasn't just like a little old lady that, someone tells them, get out of the house, it's good for you to be around, young people, and it'll help your mood. So there's that, and like I said, it's fully enacted now. So now you're competing with anyone and anyone off the street, and basically, because that's the hiring process, basically. I think high school education, GED, whatever. And they really lowered the requirements. That's why we were able to get work before, because now it's anyone and anyone. They claimed, Kelly Education, that they were going to go on a mission and initiative to hire basically as many people as they could. So I really feel for the subs out there who are stuck in this with Dade County Schools. There was an older lady that would go to my school sub, and she recalled the initial session with Kelly Education when we did the transfer, and she said, I saw everyone's faces there, and everyone was in dread of how this is going to affect them. And I have stories that I can talk about that this was a very, very toxic environment. Like I said, there's teachers there. I really think that the only reason they became teachers was that it followed a certain set of criteria. You get a license, this, that, and you hope that, especially when they got into the system, that they could get pretty much a guaranteed job, even if they got, in quote, what's called surplused around, sent to different schools. From what I'm aware, they're actually firing a lot of teachers now because the shortages are not relevant anymore. There was things that had to do with, the pandemic and everything. And like everything's a budget. School systems have budgets. And, there were people that were subs. I had it also, a statement of eligibility. If you get a school to sponsor you, but then they get rid of you, you technically don't have a full license, and then you could find yourself in trouble. There was another woman I knew of that was doing subbing. They made her like a 3,100 or something, where she was like an interim teacher, and then they technically fired her. There was all these stories, or then she was with Kelly, so she's not a teacher anymore. It was all over the place. Nothing was guaranteed. I think one of the reasons it's so hard for me to put this video into words is that it's just like baffling how, number one, how bad it was, how much there is to heal from, and I'm also, like I said, I find it so interesting that I'm so aware of what today is and that today is the day. It's kind of like this weird feeling. On the one hand, if you were subbing a lot, you were very tired, and then you're kind of skipping for joy also, like, yay, I'm like a kid again, summer break. Only difference is it's like, yay, I'm a kid again, but I got bills to pay. That's how it felt. Like you like the last day came and you're like, yay, I don't have to go into work. I'm like we're all on summer break, woohoo. And then you're going, oh, but wait, I actually have bills to pay. I'm not a kid. I'm not like the teachers that have income coming in. And then what would usually happen is you'd have this moment where you're like, oh, it's so nice to rest and sleep in. And after about a week and a half, 2 weeks, when you'd start to see your phone bill come in and these different things come in, you're like, when is that? I actually remember saying to myself, I remember this, like a week and a half goes in, 2 weeks, you see the phone bill come in, and you're like, when's that last check coming in from Dade schools? Now it's the end of the year. I have one more coming in. And I really feel for everyone who is still in that situation. It is, I was thinking, I've talked about this a lot in my head. Is subbing good for a student who wants to do it one day a week? So that way you don't have to adhere to a schedule and you can kind of make your own schedule. I understand the openness of that and being able to build your own schedule, but also I would say no, because it's a very toxic environment. Try to find something else, maybe school employment or something like that, or something that's very, very, very part-time, because toxic is toxic. So I felt like I needed to do this video because it's been on my mind, obviously, since I'm aware of the day. So today is June 6th, and I have a job. And I'm very, very lucky to have a job. I'm very grateful to have a job. And I really feel for all those subs out there who are now dealing with the joys and pains of it's the summer. Oh yeah, so I'm talking to my dad, but as I'm talking about this point, it's really true. You would skip for joy, I'm on break, yay. And as it usually goes, there's usually that last check, in other words, that last week that you've worked is usually delayed because you got paid in like 2-week increments. So, you're off for a week and a half, 2 weeks into the summer, and you're seeing these bills coming in, and suddenly reality is hitting and you're going, I'd rather be at work. And you're saying to yourself, when is the last check coming in? How much is it going to be? How many days are on it? Or it's a half week type of situation because it didn't include the following week. And as my dad was pointing out, who I'm talking to about this in the background, that when you start, the first check may have 1 day on it, depending on when the billing ended for the month, because it usually doesn't, I don't believe they usually change it where In other words, your first 2 weeks are then paid. Usually what ends up happening is it stays the same. So in other words, you could show up to work and 2 days will be on the first check that you waited another week to get. And then another, you have to wait. You could end up waiting 3 weeks once you start working again, as crazy as that is, depending on when the billing started, to see any money coming in. As crazy as that is. And boy, was it bad. You know, obviously I was grateful for any income when I got it, but it was a very unstable and toxic environment, and I'm so lucky now to have a job that I actually like. So I really feel for the subs out there, and the advice is to, as many of you had said to me when I was going through that time period, get out. You know, find something else. You understood, obviously, at that time that was all I had, but that's my same message to anyone else still in the situation. The same thing the viewers were telling me is you need to apply for other things. You need to get out of this situation because it's only going to get worse. You're going to be competing with more and more people, and when you look at all the things connected, it's not normal to have a job, not be working 4 or 5 months out of the year and be waiting 3-4 weeks to see a check. Okay, so you need to get out of that situation. But I had a very good day today, a very grateful day, and I have a lot of gratitude. But yeah, I love this channel because I've created a community on here. I feel like I'm talking about important issues, and in a sense it's become kind of a diary for my life and documenting the different things that I've gone through. There is a car boat thing. I don't know if I could film it. I think it's just a boat that they painted the outside like a car. Anyways, there's like a boat thing out there. It's not at the level of like the one from Disney where it actually looks like a car. I think it's just like a boat that's painted as a car. Anyway, see you soon in my next video, and